Okay. Welcome everyone again. Welcome to this event by Terra.do Climate School. Today we're going to be talking about reimagining impact around a changing nonprofit landscape. Um, and I am very happy today to be joined by two friends who will be presenting this alongside me on this panel discussion. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with introductions. So maybe if we can go to the next slide, Kate. Okay. So I'm happy today to introduce the three of us to all of you in the Zoom room. My name is Abby Wilson, and I have been working in the nonprofit space for about 25 years. And this year has really been an unprecedented year, as you all can sense and have lived through. And I'm happy to be here talking about what's changed and some hope for the way forward. After I lost my job due to Doge cuts earlier this year. I decided to focus my time on something that I've been passionate about a long time, which is finding solutions to the climate crisis. And my work has brought me to many places around the world, primarily West Africa, where there's huge potential for solar energy. And so I'll talk a little bit later in this presentation about the project I'm working on now in that space. But just really wanted to welcome you all into this space to discuss. We're going to do a conversation, and then at the end have plenty of time for questions and answers. And really look forward to speaking with all of you and hearing about your experiences. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kate to introduce herself next.
Thanks so much, Abby. I appreciate that. I am Kate Highfill. I pivoted into the nonprofit space about 5 years ago out of academia and had started last year working for the Department of Energy, helping to put several $billion in place to fight climate change. And I was also doged in February, and all of that work is now gone. So I'm happy to be back with my Terra community, still continuing to do that work in the best ways possible with all of you. And I will pass it over to Colin.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I took Climate Change Learning for Action through Terra in November 2023. So I'm relatively new to the sustainability space. I pivoted in from IT consulting in 2023. Right now, I do operations at a company called the Carbonauts. We do sustainability education for Fortune 1000 companies. And then on the side, I run a cohort program that helps mid-career professionals pivot into climate jobs called the Green Beta. I'm relatively new to the nonprofit world as well. We just stood up a nonprofit this year through the Carbonauts called the Carbonauts Sustainability Foundation. So excited to talk to you about what I'm seeing in the market, talking to employers in the corporate setting, and then some of the community things I'm seeing as well. And would love for all of you to chime in the chat and tell us where you're calling in from as we get started here.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. And just another little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions that pop up in our discussion, please put them in the chat, and at the end we'll have time to get to as many of those as possible. So thanks a lot for your attention and active participation. And I'm going to hand it over next to Kate for the next slide.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. As noted by everyone in the introductions, we are here for a conversation around the climate nonprofit space. We have several sections here we're going to talk through, but we want to make sure that you understand that we are framing this as a discussion. We are here to share the knowledge that we have, the experiences that we're having, but we don't have any answers for all of you. We want to make some space for us to help each other find the next steps in what sometimes feels like a really discouraging environment. So first, we will talk a little bit about kind of state of the field, what we're seeing right now. We have a few climate sector hot takes that we will share. Colin's going to be kind enough to talk with us about job trends and experiences, and also his wonderful work with the Green Beta that will be useful to many people here. We also have a discussion of opportunities for meaningful work in non-traditional ways, making ends meet without a stable job, and then how do we make meaning in a time that feels continually fraught and ever changing? So this first little section is numbers as of September of this year. We are looking at, as you're all aware, huge funding cuts across the board. Organizations are seeing, 30%, 34% federal already. They anticipate another 22, and it just gets worse from there across the board. You've all talked, I'm sure, to foundation leaders right now who are feeling particularly concerned about the safety of continuing to work in spaces that are under attack. I personally work with organizations who have seen long-term funders have to close their doors because they're afraid of the environment. And then we also have state and local governments who are losing their federal dollars that they can no longer pass on. Many are trying to pick up the slack in as many ways as they possibly can, and for that, super grateful. But of course, pivoting with this type of a shock is very difficult. And then, of course, we have individual donors who are feeling the concerns of taking risks in this environment, who may be concerned about the economy, return on investment. And then also there are the impacts from the One Big Beautiful Bill that are going to result in a decline in the number of donors of high net wealth, and middle class donors just can't make up that difference. So in the climate space specifically, we're seeing these kind of general trends. We don't have good solid numbers yet for totals. This is as close as we can get. So in 2025, the feds withdrew their support across climate, international development, and other nonprofit work. DOE, this number here, 14 billion, I think is actually too low. I worked under the Biden administration after the results of the past election to put in several $billion in conditional funding before the administration changeover. That has all now been canceled. Every project that I personally put in place has been canceled. And I don't have a clear total on that, but I think this 14 billion is actually a little bit low. EPA canceled 1.7. I think this is also low. And then, of course, to Abby's experience, USAID was dismantled, 60 billion in grants and contracts canceled. And of course, people are dying, right? This is not just, oh, it's too bad these grant dollars are gone and these people have to find a new job. People are dying. 89% of foundation and nonprofit leaders are seeing climate change as being very or extremely urgent, but less than 2% of global philanthropy goes to climate mitigation. We have a huge imbalance that is just going to get worse as things get tighter. And then, of course, in 2023, 2.6% of grant makers are doing climate funding. But if we expand that and look at all sorts of environmental work, it goes up to 23.6, but that's virtually unchanged over the past decade. And as we all know from being with Terra.do and out in the world, that's not enough. We need more money faster now. Funding generally so far is remaining flat overall with some pullbacks with some foundations, as I noted. In a slow strategy adjustment across the board, I've been pleased to see that foundations are oftentimes beginning to put in place have been putting in place rapid response grants and are trying to meet needs. But as of yet, I haven't seen a really solid long-term strategy to fill in the gaps that we are going to continue to see from the changes to the federal funding landscape. But with that said, there are some potentially positive movements. There's some more intentional engagement from foundations and donors, better understandings of problems and necessary solutions. And then there's also better tools, I think, now to help donors with decision making to decide how best to deploy their dollars to make the impact that they are hoping to make. And I'll turn it over to Colin to talk with us about the job seekers.
Yeah, and Abby and Kate, feel free to jump in here too. And I know there might be people who are still employed and just curious about the space. There might be people who are job seeking right now. Like they said, Abby and Kate said earlier, we don't have all the answers. This is just to start a discussion. But typically what we've been seeing is, roles coming online, AI tools making it easy to flood those roles with hundreds of applicants within the hour, sometimes faster. And it feels really discouraging. Like you're applying into this black hole. You sometimes get a negative return. You're putting all this time and energy in, and you're not, seeing any results. So I think the point of this meeting today, this discussion, is to start talking about what the future of work looks like as well. And before we jump into that, would love Abby and Kate to share some of their experiences here.
Yeah, um, this is feeling very relevant and emotional, actually. I think, I've spent the last almost 10 months now in the job search world. And I can say, I mean, as somebody with like two master's degrees, bilingual, I've worked all over the world. I have never in the past had this much trouble finding a job. Because the whole sector that I had studied for, prepared for, and then worked in is pretty much eliminated right now. As Kate mentioned before, the funding landscape without federal US dollars for anything sort of international development or climate change is less than a tenth of what it used to be with the philanthropic donors. So I think that the hidden criteria, I think, is the word that I put on this slide because I feel like, you end up applying for all these jobs that you're qualified for. You see the criteria and you meet them, but you don't even get called for an interview because I think once AI, there's AI screening and then the flood of candidates makes recruiters think that, oh, there's actually some different criteria that I'm looking at to select people, and so that screens people out without even knowing what they are. So just wanted to confirm that the experience is real.
Yeah, for sure. I've also been really frustrated by the lack of response that I've gotten. It's worse, than when I was pivoting from academia, which really blows my mind, quite honestly. I know that one thing that I have struggled with and continue to struggle with is naming some of my most transferable skills in ways that employers can understand them. It can be difficult when you are trying to look in another sector to help people understand that you really have done this job already. It just didn't look the same or it wasn't called the same thing.
Mm.
So learning how to speak that other language in a way that makes sense to people and demonstrates my value has been something that has been a struggle for me. And then on top of that, just I've noted here, like knowing your worth, it can be really difficult sometimes to say no when you really feel like you just need a job. But it's also been important for me to remember that I don't need any job. I might at some point, right? Like you all got to eat, right? You have to eat, you do what you need to do to eat. But you also don't want to take the first position that you have because you're scared and then be miserable. However, if you want to take the first position and get paid while you can continue to look, always a solid plan. So anything that you need to do to get where you need to go is great, but also know that you don't have to take a position that doesn't meet your needs, and you don't have to stay somewhere where you are not valued.
Yeah, very well said. If you want to go to the next slide, I can talk a little bit about some trends that we're seeing and issue some hot takes, I think, to at least get the conversation started. So one of the things that we're seeing is, as you all know, if you're in the nonprofit world, you need revenue and donations to operate. So I think what we're going to see more and more in 2026 is learning how to sell is going to be the most important skill you can build. You're hearing all about AI, you're hearing all about these landscape changes, funding is cut, we have to do more with less. So learning how to bring revenue in the door, whether that's donations, whether that's coming up with new programs, um, grant writing, partnership management, community engagement, that's all sales. Learning how to tell your story, figure out how to add value, and then help organizations capitalize on that. And I think also it's learning to sell yourself is going to be a very important skill to build. So that's critical thinking, kind of to Kate's point, translating the old vocabulary to the new vocabulary, and we'll talk about that in a second. I think that's going to be very important as we go into next year. So those fundraising and development trends, roles are in demand. Also capacity building. So I mentioned doing more with less. Any way that you can help organizations create efficiency and positive return on investment through being a better operator, managing projects efficiently, helping them come in under budget and on time, AI skills and data analysis, learning how to use these tools that are making us more productive to take back our time. I was at an AI conference yesterday and they pulled up a stat that I think it's like 50% to 60% of our time is spent on work about work. So reformatting documents, writing emails, things like that. And there's a lot of opportunities to take back that time and be more effective with technology being rolled out, being really good at coordinating programs, helping things come to life, organizing stakeholders, making sure things are operating efficiently, and then improving processes to remove bottlenecks and helping these organizations do more with less to end on that theme. And then the last thing that I'm seeing personally is someone who's working with a lot of corporate sustainability partners. The titles and words that we're using, it's changing. So LinkedIn did a study, this was just last week. Over 50% of green jobs no longer have green titles according to their data. So you're still seeing some sustainability titles, but right now what I'm seeing is sustainability being embedded into roles downstream across operations, which ultimately I think is a good thing in the long term. You have supply chain managers doing risk assessments and resilience planning, and they're also I know I'm working with one client that is evaluating vendors based on ESG metrics. They're just not talking about it. Innovation, like the future of work is sustainability. We're seeing a lot of people wanting to embed sustainability in their manufacturing and operations, which is great. Facilities management, all about risk and resilience. Where are we putting our capital investments? Are we doing climate feasibility studies, making sure that we're properly insured and this place isn't going to get wiped out? Companies want to protect their investments. And then project manager in general, like all of this is a project right now. There's a lot of moving parts. So we're seeing sustainability getting embedded into project management roles as well. So Kate, Abby, anything to add to that? Okay.
Yep.
So when I work with people who come to me and say, I want to work in climate, and this is very relevant to people looking for jobs right now, I think you have to hold two contexts in your mind. You have what you want, like your skills, what energizes you, where you want to work, and then the current market reality. And this isn't static, this is always shifting. So it's important to take this inventory, for your current state and time, and then update this mental model as you go. So you have what's really energizing to you, like where can you contribute? And then where is the investment going right now? Where are jobs being created? How can I get paid? We all need to eat, right? And in that intersection is the meaningful paid work that you can have. And the future of work is changing. That doesn't necessarily mean a full-time job, and we'll talk about that a little later if you want to go to the next slide, Kate. So a couple of frameworks that I help people put into practice to clarify their direction and to take a step back. I'm sure all of you have heard the traditional advice of just be applying to jobs, networking, all that stuff. I'm trying to come up with a few things to help shake the mold a little and be a little creative. So that's the inspiration behind these slides. But the frameworks I like to use to help people get started if they're completely lost, you have your Ikigai framework, which is what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. I actually take the time to write this down on paper. I think if you set a timer for 20 minutes and put those categories out there and just brainstorm, get it out of your head so you get it on paper. And you don't need to have a set direction right now. I think I'm seeing someone saying they're not seeing the slides. Can others confirm that you can see the slides right now? Okay, cool. Yeah, if you get that out on paper, it's a great exercise, and I'll talk about what to do with that in a second. The other thing I like to use is called inversion thinking. So that's essentially flipping the problem on its head. So instead of asking yourself, how can I be successful? Like where can I go next? You should ask yourself, where do I not want to go? What work do I not want to do? And do that as a separate exercise too, because sometimes it's easier to chart your next path after you define where you don't want to go. And then if you want to go to the next slide, Kate, what you can do is get clarity with AI reflection. You can do this yourself, absolutely. But AI is really good at structuring unstructured data and helping you think through things as a thought partner. So I actually created a custom GPT to help me do this, and I'll share that in the chat. But what I did was I took a picture of my Ikigai framework and then my inversion exercise, uploaded it into ChatGPT, and asked it to identify patterns in my thinking, any blind spots, like where am I blocking myself? What possible career directions can I take? And it really helped me think through my career and just more of a strategy because, as I mentioned, I'm doing a couple of things right now. I think of myself as having what I call a portfolio career, which I'll talk about in a second. And this was really helpful for me to understand where I could build momentum and then cut less value added tasks. So that's one thing. If you want to go to the next slide, I have an example of an output. So
Colin, could
yeah,
I
go for it.
jump in? I think so. I also wanted to add that another option, which I tried in sort of the beginning of my job search experience this year, was since so many people in my sector were laid off, we all kind of got together and helped each other come up with what we're good at. So like getting input from other people on what they like about working with you, that was so valuable to me because I don't see that as a in myself. So ChatGPT and other AI tools can help. Also, friends and colleagues who know you.
Yeah, community is so important and leaning on others with shared experience. I think one overlooked aspect of I guess one helpful resource that not a lot of people lean on is fellow job seekers. Someone who can validate and give you feedback who's going through the same thing. That in my job search, it took me 6 to 7 months to land my climate job search or my climate job. I was meeting with other job seekers once every other week or so just to talk about sticky points, get feedback, things like that. Leaning on community is so important during this. So I'm glad you called that out. Yeah, this is just an example of an output. We can go to the next slide. So the job search is very overwhelming. And at the Green Beta, we tried to create a roadmap to reduce that overwhelm to help you chart where you are and figure out your next steps. And what we're calling this model is the funnel. And there's 4 phases that we like to think about in a job search. So the top level phase is the explore phase. And let me just call out, people are at different points. Like you guys might be in align or focus. You might know where you want to go already. This is what I use when people tell me they want to work on climate. And I have to say, well, that's not really a thing. You have to figure out the sector that you're interested in, get more specific. And this is how we guide them to do that. But at the explore phase, you're figuring out what's interesting to you and gathering market intelligence, kind of that Venn diagram where you're saying, here's what I want, here's what's interesting, and here's the market reality, here's where things are growing. And you're just figuring out what energizes you at that point. And then you go down into the focus phase. And this is a very important part in the job search because a lot of people think that staying broad gives them the most options. But in reality, the more focused and specific you can get when you're speaking to someone about what you want next, the easier it is for them to help you. And it doesn't cut off future options for you either, because you could still have a conversation in person separate from your focus area and explore that. But you want to be able to have the light bulb go off in someone else's head when you're having that conversation for them to say, oh, I know who to connect you to next, or you should apply to this role. So getting focused and defining your direction is a really important step after you explore. Phase 3 is aligning yourself to kind of appear like you're already working in that space. And a lot of you have great experience already. And so it shouldn't be that hard for you to appear credible if you've already done the work. When you're pivoting in, it's a little different when you're switching industries and roles. So that's why this is important. But this is where you are making sure your LinkedIn is optimized for first impressions. You have a really good elevator pitch. You have a list of target companies that you're looking at. You have a target networking list that is aligned to your focus area. And you're just showing up and starting to build visibility like you work in the space. And then finally, contribute phase, you're adding value, and that helps you gain inbound interest. So that's connecting people, that's creating content, that's curating information and sharing helpful guides. That's how we think about the funnel. And if you go to the next slide, we also, you also have to do the traditional job seeking approach here. But I want to talk about the three C's before I get into that. So in the funnel, I like to think of three C's. You create, you curate, and you connect. So that's, like I mentioned, anything from your resume, elevator pitch, LinkedIn, creating content, using that as hooks to gain interest. You're just trying to stand out beyond the cold apply and show up like you're someone working in the space or you're ready to contribute right away. You want to reduce risk for hiring managers. You're curating information, you're forming your perspective, you're sharing your resources you're learning from, and then you're connecting by promoting other people's work, adding value, having a service mindset, etc. And then it requires parallel efforts, as you all know. I won't get into this too much, but applying the jobs, quality over quantity, like Kate said, tailoring your resume is with impact-based bullets and a summary is really helpful. And then evaluating your approach. If after 20 applications you're not hearing back, it might be helpful to lean on your community, like Abby said, and just bounce thoughts off of each other. Where am I blocked? How can I do things better? And then, as always, you should be growing your network right now. Um, if you want to go to the next slide, I feel like I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to tee up Abby here. But we talked about other opportunities beyond full-time jobs. I think right now it's important to get scrappy. You have to do what you have to do to eat, and we wanted to start the brainstorming around the few other things that we're seeing where you can still be doing this work while we're navigating this changing landscape. So Abby, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, sure. So I thought it might be useful to share my story a little bit. And I was just saying to Colin and Kate before this meeting that I feel like the word of the year is fractional. It's a word that I didn't think about back in 2024, but these days, everything now, how I spend my time is fractional. I don't have a sort of one job that provides everything for me. So you can go ahead to the next slide, Kate. Um, I am an Uber driver. I now decided to actually just go ahead and create my own green job. I traded in my internal combustion vehicle for an electric vehicle right at the end of September when the tax credits were still available to us. And since then, I've been driving Uber Electric in DC. And thank you for all of your applause that I see coming up. This was a big step for me. I'm not going to lie. After job searching for so many months, I was like, I need to find some kind of income now that doesn't depend on me actually going through submitting resumes and getting an interview and all of that because I've done all of that and so far it hasn't led to anything. And so part of my fractional work is my own little green job, which is driving Uber Electric in DC. And as just a little pitch, I wanted to let everyone know that for some reason, when you call an Uber, it's kind of buried at the end of the list of all the different options. There's Uber Electric, and usually it costs the same or less than just a regular Uber. So I just wanted to make a plug to always call for Uber Electric when you need an Uber. If you're in DC, you might find me. Who knows? Um, so that's one of the things I've done, and then we can go to the next slide, maybe. Okay, portfolio. Okay, this I think is back to Colin, but I think maybe I should also say that in addition to doing that gig work just to make an income, because I know that a lot of people have said in the chat, like, finding meaningful work versus finding a way to eat. That's the point I got to. And this is by no means anywhere near the salary I used to have when I was working full time, but it is something. And it is on my own time, and I can do it when I'm free. And it's flexible, and you don't need anybody to review your resume and accept you. As long as you have a car that qualifies, you can do it. So just wanted to put a pitch out there for doing a little ride share work. Back to you, Colin.
Yeah, and just real quickly, we have, I think, 15 to 20 people in my community right now, and a lot of them are embracing this portfolio career idea. We have a couple of people navigating a layoff, and they're using it as an opportunity to work in a sector that they've always wanted to work in. And sometimes it takes a little bit to land that full-time job. But we've had 3 to 4 people land fractional roles and contract-based roles. So if you're unfamiliar with that term, it's just part-time work essentially. If you're full-time as a fractional person, you're spread out across multiple clients. So you would fill your 40 hours with, say, 3 clients or something like that. But right now, you can think about it as landing a contract, and maybe you're advising a nonprofit or you're working on your own nonprofit or business. That's what a portfolio career is. And what we're seeing is employers are increasingly open to part-time work going forward. I personally actually have 3 jobs right now. I have my Carbonauts job, I have the Green Beta work, I'm doing some fractional work, and I'm working for a home renovation company because I'm interested in the built environment. So I want to learn how to apply sustainability to that. And so I'm dipping my toes in there 5 hours a week. Uh, and it's really energizing and empowering to wake up every day and kind of take your future into your own hands and move the needle forward. You're not relying on the traditional employment model. It's scary, but nothing's certain anymore. I think what we saw this year is the traditional path has been broken. So this is another way to feel empowered and still make the impact that you want to have. Kate, I think over to you.
I think this one might be, yeah, this is me again.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot for saying that, Colin. So, I just wanted to also talk about something else that I'm doing in my sort of portfolio career right now, which is I'm starting, it's not really official yet, and we're still sort of like deciding on our logo and everything. So this is a sneak preview of a new organization that I'm standing up along with some of my friends from my former career. I know some of them are on this call right now, so welcome. As well as some friends I met through t my Terra.do Learning for Action Fellowship. I was in the Quails cohort that ended in June this year. Um, yeah, thanks. So we're starting up a new nonprofit called Sunroots, where we're expanding access to solar technologies in West Africa. We're starting with some of the hardest to work in areas, including Guinea and Mali. And our idea is to start working with what's called productive use of energy, which is sort of standalone community-based solutions, such as I'm inspired by an organization called Cold Hubs, that's a Nigerian group who has established these walk-in fridges for African markets that are solar powered. And so we want to do something similar in markets like the one you see here on the lower left in Mali, where people do not have access to refrigeration. And so food spoilage is a huge problem where it's something like between 40 and 45% of all produce actually does not get to people's tables and is just wasted because of lack of refrigeration. So we're coming together to work on standing up this nonprofit and getting it going. And pretty soon, before Christmas, we're going to start our first fundraiser. So stay tuned for news out of Sunroots. It's pretty exciting, and we're looking forward to seeing it get going. So over to Kate. Oh, Kate, you're next, I think. Talking about business.
Oh, yes. Yep, I can talk for just a minute. So I just wanted to drop a note here, similar to Colin. I do quite a bit of fractional work. Mine is actually through an LLC that I was fortunate enough to still have in place when I got the Doge news. That I work with small nonprofits. I do operations and advancement work kind of across what do you need to get done to get moving. I help founders with how to figure out what the next step is. How do I file paperwork? How do I take all of these documents that I need to create and turn them into something that's useful? And that work has been really, really lovely to have. It's great to be working with people who are doing the work of making the world a better place. And that's really been a saving grace for me amongst all of the unpleasantness that has come down this year to be able to be reminded every day that people are still doing good work in the world. And so if you are in a position where you would like to do work of that nature, setting up an LLC is really pretty simple. You just need to file a little bit of paperwork. You can run your taxes through your own social security number. You don't have to do anything fancy. Obviously, you should get, legal and accounting advice, but know that it doesn't have to be a daunting process and that you probably have a lot more options than you might think. And Abby, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yeah, so another thing that I've been doing a lot of is activism. As I mentioned, I'm here in DC, and so there's constantly different events going on. I think there are so many levels that we operate on, including the personal level, but also the community level and the national level. And so because policy in the US has changed, and it's not just the US, I see a lot of questions about the international space too. I know sort of globally, um, funding from governments for things like climate change and international development it's going down across the board everywhere. And so instead of just feeling helpless, sad, and angry by myself, it has really helped my mental health to get involved in activism and getting out there and really fighting for the policies that we want and that the world needs right now. And so I'm including a couple of photos here from some protests here in DC that are kind of funny with the lobsters. But I think that's all part of it. And I know Kate's going to speak a little bit more about this, but essentially, we need to still find joy in our lives and we need to sort of laugh about things that are funny and fight for the things that we care about. And so, whenever I go out and do advocacy or activism around causes I care about, it always makes me feel better because I meet people who care about things just as much as I do.
Yes, absolutely. And just to reiterate that point, that everything is hard right now for all of us in a number of ways. And the weight of what we know and what we are experiencing and having to watch that kind of snowball, having to watch people be hurt, having to watch our loved ones be hurt, having to try to figure out how to claw some kind of a living out of the ruins of a former career is really fucking hard. And so we have to be able to just sit with that and be sad about it. Like if you are upset, if you are angry, if you are sad and you need to grieve the future that you no longer have, sit with that. Don't try to don't try to jolly yourself or move forward without feeling that grief and that sadness because those feelings are going to be the foundation of building something new. And so until you have those feelings under control or you have come to a place where you can hold them without them being overwhelming or derailing you from moving forward, you won't really be able to move forward. You've got to get to a place where you can do something with them and they don't drive you anymore. And so let yourself be sad. Do the grief work as long as you need to do it. Come back to it as many times as you need to come back to, because it's not going to be like, oh, I was sad today and now I feel better tomorrow. It's not the way it works, right? Like you're going to be horribly crushed and it's going to be hard and then you'll feel better for a few days and then you're going to be back to feeling like you just want to strangle everybody for a while. Like that's normal. It's an up and down kind of thing. And you just have to go with it. This is where having community around you is important. And you need people to remind you of the significance of what you do and how valued you are. And then you have to give that back. As Abby mentioned, one of the really key things for me has been giving back. The more I can give, I feel like the more I get. And so I look for opportunities to be in service, like Colin mentioned to other people. What can I do? How can I brighten somebody else's day? I have an open invitation out to anybody who needs a pep talk. Let me know. I'm happy to do that because we all need to be reminded of the value that we bring to the world. And I want to help people feel better about that. So when you're in the midst of instability and you don't know where to go, it's okay. You don't need to know the answers. Just keep doing the work that gets you where you need to go, even if you don't know the direction yet. Just keep doing it and let time be your friend here. Uh, I am not particularly religious or spiritual, but I do think that the world tends to work out. And so even when everything feels horrible and like you will never be able to have what you need, trust that you are going to get where you need to go and that you are capable of getting there. Lean on your community, find other people. We can do this together, and to that, this is how you build that resilience mindset. I love this poster that Abby has, right? This joy festival, right? We don't have to be sad and we don't have to be in despair amidst all of the horrible things that are happening. We can choose to say, you know what, this blows. And it makes me really sad. And I feel very cynical about the prospects of the world. But I am going to snatch my joy back. I will not let these people, whoever they are, because at the moment it feels real personal, right? I'm not going to let people steal my joy. I will not let them force me into despair. I will not let them tell me that I no longer have a future or I cannot find a career. It doesn't look like I expected it to, and it's going to be more difficult in some ways because this is a different way to do it. But I don't have to be sad. I don't have to be in despair. I can choose to snatch joy and build joy with other people. Because remember, y'all, we are only as helpless as we allow ourselves to be. There is a reason that the media machines are deployed against us. There's a reason that the algorithms work the way that they do. And it's not to bring you happiness and satisfaction, right? So we just have to keep doing the things that get us where we need to go. And sometimes that looks like waking up in the morning, hating every moment of it, and going to do it anyway. You just go do it because that's how you get it done. And you have to rethink about yourself, right? This reconsidering your identity. You're not your work. That's not your value. Those are your skills. Those are the ways to make the money to feed yourself, but that's not your worth. And that's not the only thing you have to add to the world. And open yourself up to this unexpected joy of doing something different. This was most impactful to me when I was moving out of the academic space, where like brilliance is assumed and nobody ever tells you that you're doing a good job, right? You're just supposed to just go be fabulous in the corner and like bring satisfaction to everybody for how wonderful you are. And so moving into a space, and this was one of the lovely things about DOE, where people were like, "Oh, you did a really good job there," was mind blowing to me, right? Oh, you mean somebody noticed that I did a good job? Embrace that, right? Embrace the idea of having skills that you didn't know you had. And that might be because nobody noticed, but it also might be because you didn't realize how freaking brilliant you were. Because we don't see that. Like Abby mentioned, we just don't see it. It's our day-to-day reality. We don't know what happens. And then use that as leverage to discover new capabilities and talents. I mentioned that I do operations work. I am an English major. I have like 6 degrees in words, y'all. Actually, I think there's only 4. Either way, many degrees in words. I had no idea that I would enjoy doing things like helping people figure out processes, right? How do we make this work better? How do I make it work faster? How do I make it actually work in a way that's useful to you? Because people don't realize you don't have to do it this way. You can change it and do it that way if it works better. So be open to that and don't allow yourself to be hamstrung by someone else's expectations for your reality. And then just to close for a minute, Abby and I both wanted to talk about community. I am in rural South Dakota, deep red, rural South Dakota. Terra.do has been an amazing space for me to be able to be with people who understand the importance of climate change, who understands the importance of doing climate work, who are committed to making the world a better place globally, not just concerned about what's in their backyard and how that needs to work for them, like actually being in a place with other people who value this work has been amazing. I've also been part of local communities that you might not necessarily realize exist if you're someone who lives rurally. I worked for several years with a tenants union out of Rapid City. We did amazing work to help hold landlords accountable, to keep people in their homes, to get people's hot water turned on, to get maintenance done that landlords refuse to do, because you had people like me who have a lot of education, a lot of experience navigating systems, who can then turn those systems against the people who are abusing the tenants, right? We could figure out, who do you need to call? Um, is this a landlord that we have experience with and we know which levers to work to help get them what they need? You can do meaningful work from anywhere. Don't let your location hamstring you. And if you need ideas about what that can look like, I would be happy to be a thought partner and talk you through that. But don't let the world dictate your happiness, and don't let anybody steal your joy. Abby, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, that you said it beautifully. Yeah, mic drop. Thank you. I wanted to just put this photo up of our graduation ceremony from our the Quails cohort's graduation. Because that is a community that I am still very much engaged in and has been so helpful. I'm also, I think getting engaged locally, maybe local government. I saw somebody in the chat saying that they're involved with a volunteer role in local government. Anything, even if it doesn't pay, like just people who are going through similar things, people who need help that you can provide for free. A lot of us have time now. There's a lot we can do with networking. Sorry, volunteering also can be networking. Um, so yeah, I think, I think at this point we're going to open it up on the next slide for questions and answers. But one prompting question we wanted to know about is, what communities are you all part of? And is there anyone who wants to share about, what are your strategies that you've used during this time? Or is there a question you want to ask? So we're really opening the floor to the rest of you now. Feel free to come off the mic or raise your hand or even drop something in the chat.
I can go. Oh, someone else going?
You can go, Joanne, and then Nami.
Oh, okay. So for me, yeah, I essentially lost my job in June, and yeah, to be honest, I wasn't altogether disappointed because I wasn't enjoying that job so much, and it was time to move. And sometimes, the universe got to give you a little nudge. So it felt like that. But yeah, it has been quite difficult to find work since, because obviously we also in South Africa have the sequelae of the US aid cuts, and then of course being in Africa, we have even less access to all sorts of other things. So yeah, it's been challenging, but yeah, I've actually chosen to, on the one hand, treat the job applications as like Tinder swiping, you know? So, I sort of say to people, sometimes, if you go on a first date with somebody, you kind of imagine, how you're going to get married and you have this whole like, future vision. And with a job, that's not very helpful if you get overly attached to something you're applying to. So, I find that really helpful to actually just spend a day, maximum, put together everything I want to. And, AI does make it a bit quicker. And obviously I then, edit it myself as well to make sure that whatever AI adjustments I've done actually makes sense. And then just forget about it, That's been great, to just let it go. Because when I started, I was spending like 2 weeks on one application. We were like married and had 3 kids, so that I found really helpful. And then yeah, I've also decided to just be really grateful for having some time to like do my own things and just be spacious. And if I'm feeling sad one day, that I can take the whole day and actually just like feel sad, That's a gift in life, actually. So that's really been super helpful and really great for my own personal growth, actually, just to be able to follow my own emotional and body flow because we can't do that when we're working. Um, yeah, and then lots of time in nature. I swim in the ocean pretty much every day. and that really helps. And then I've engaged in just like random kind of networking things. And so I've been meeting very interesting people. Nothing substantial has come out of it yet, but yeah, I think things will eventually. So yeah, those are Joanne's top tips for surviving the apocalypse. Over and out.
Thank you, Joanne. And thanks for mentioning being outside. That's something that has also been really important to me. I hike a lot. That is, the one of the reasons I live where I do, is that I can just go outside and I can go hang out with my dogs and get a lot of exercise. And that really kind of helps me stay a little more sane, right? You get out into the world and you're like, yes, actually, these things that feel so horrible and heavy and important are less so because I am reminded of the natural world and the miracles, of existence every day. So thank you for that. And then Nami, I see that you've got your hand up. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, so thank you for this presentation. Someone mentioned getting together with other job seekers, and I just wanted to mention there's this organization called Never Search Alone, and some people might have heard about it. It goes through a similar exercise as Colin mentioned, like, what is it that you're looking for? What are you good at? What's the match between those two? And I don't think you necessarily have to go through all that program thing, but the framework is very helpful. And what is really nice is the community of job seekers that are sharing tips and ideas. Also, you know, uh, getting together and talking about that. And so I just wanted to mention that in case someone's interested, and I'm happy to let you know more about how that works if anyone's interested, or even form a group amongst these group of people.
Yeah, that's a great idea. If people are interested in doing something like that, for sure, let us know. We could certainly set up some type of a connection opportunity, and yeah, we can all help each other. I think that's a great idea. Lisa, I see that you've got your hand up.
Yes, I was wondering because you talked a bit about portfolio careers and how like the traditional model is changing. And I think I spoke to a few people and realized even outside the climate space, it's different, right, these days. So I was wondering how what you're seeing and your experiences in the US, but also elsewhere, translates to the broader job world right now. Like, do we see a general shift away from traditional jobs? Is it just in the climate space? Is it more in the US than in other countries? What are your thoughts on that?
I can jump in first, and then Abby and Kate, if you want to add on. Yeah, I think we're going to see more and more of this across industries. Companies want someone with experience to come in, and they might start thinking more in a project-based capacity, especially as we're seeing hiring freezes across industries right now where entry-level talent is not really getting hired as much, right? I saw Walmart announced a 3-year hiring freeze recently. And some of these organizations might backtrack on that. I have a feeling they will, because I personally don't think that the tech is there yet, but things are accelerating very quickly. So you have tightening economic conditions, you have a rapid acceleration of technology, you have shifting landscapes and partnerships, and AI has now rendered Google SEO almost obsolete, and answer engine optimization is a big thing now. The conference I was at yesterday is saying you're going to do all your shopping inside of a large language model pretty soon. So there's a lot of hot takes out there. A lot of people are uncertain, and I think this uncertainty creates hesitation where companies are hesitant to make big bets, and that's probably why we're seeing hiring freezes and funding drying up while they're trying to navigate certain landscapes and these changes. So as they want to move things forward, we're seeing an openness to part-time work and more people embracing this portfolio career. And more job seekers too, right? Trying to take contracts to pay the bills right now. that could turn into a sustainable thing where they're doing their own thing and not returning to the traditional model as well. But Abby and Kate, do you have anything to add there?
What you said is great. I mean, yeah, it's all, I think because of the risk, I think you mentioned, Colin, in the beginning, like you want to reduce risk for the recruiters and hiring managers and hiring you. And I think that a lot of the ways they're doing that is by posting part-time or consultancies instead of full-time jobs. And so the challenge for us in the US in this environment is health insurance, because none of those fractional roles provide health insurance for us. Anyway, there's a perfect storm happening in the US right now around that I won't get into, but yeah, just wanted to confirm what Colin said.
Same. And then also, for those of you that are considering fractional or consulting roles, if you do nothing else, charge what you are worth. And you are worth a shit ton of money. Like, literally, you need to be charging what you're worth. I don't want to hear this $50 an hour bullshit. I don't want to hear, even $100 an hour probably. You are an expert who has a load of skills and you need to be charging for them. And if you're feeling hesitant to do that for your own sake, do it for the rest of us because we all need that money and we are all worth it. So don't set the floor, right? Don't be the floor. Lisa, did that answer your question?
Yes, I was also interesting, like a little bit to see if it's outside of the US, if you also have any ideas. Maybe we will all be self-employed in the future. I don't know, like how will it evolve? But yeah, that definitely went into what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. And I don't have a lot of insight into outside of the US. I will say that I've spoken to a number of people in Europe and in Britain who are also experiencing a poor job market. So my sense right now is that it's not great globally, though the US might be kind of the bottom of the barrel in terms of like upheaval of traditional work patterns. Let me just say it that way. Um, I haven't heard from anyone globally. I am part of another global group. I haven't heard from anyone globally right now for whom job seeking is easy. And that includes Europe, Britain, and Australia, as well as some limited contacts that I have in India. So if you're struggling anywhere in the world right now, it's probably not you. It would be my takeaway from the conversations that I've had. And then Erin, I see that you've got your hand up. Oh, and we're just about at time, y'all. If people need to drop off, please go ahead. This is recorded. You can come in and catch the last bit of the Q&A, but I'm happy to stay on as long as people want to chat. Go ahead, Erin.
This is, thank you. This has been extremely rich, and I have about 5 questions. But I think so I want to ask. So I have been like, I quit my last job, and I have been taking some time, and now I'm like getting to the point where I would start applying. I haven't really started, and there's part of me that's like, the market is so bad right now. Should I even try to get a climate job? My and I appreciate what you just said about charge what you were worth. If we're pivoting, are we worth less? Like this, so like, how do I, is it worth still trying to pivot? And yeah, I definitely still like I internally like I'm committed, but it's just like things are not good right now. But my background is in healthcare policy analysis, so that also space is also not great right now either. So mm, mm, it's not like anything is really easy. I'm in the DC space. Yeah, but I'm hearing what you're not saying is just to like try to accept like a long-term making 50% of like what we expected to make before. Like you're not advocating that we all do that, which is like part of like where my head goes like, oh, we're just all going to be poorer basically than we thought that we were. So I don't, that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe a mess of a question, but like, is it still worth a shot now?
I can take a stab at this one. I really feel you, Erin, because yes, all of what you said. I am also at the point of like, do I accept a job of, that's making 50% of what I used to make? And the answer is yes, because I need to put food on the table. I have a kid, like I gotta live. So, but I think what's helped me is thinking like one thing that we need to do is sometimes separate our identity from our how we make money. So my identity has been wrapped up in my career for so long, in international development and advocating for, democracy in Africa, which is sort of out of fashion right now, apparently. Um, but my identity is still that, even if my main source of income right now is driving a Uber, Like I think that there is a certain amount of just this whole fractional idea, portfolio work. I've just decided to lean into that. Like the way I make money is different from what my expertise is in, and it is different from my passion. And that's okay. It's temporary. I think that's how I think of it. It's temporary. I need to do what I need to do for the next so many months until something comes along that I'm more long-term happy with. And so that's what I would say. Like, if you got to work at a grocery store, wait tables, drive Uber, like do what you need to do to make money in the meantime, and then keep up your search and search in a targeted way, like we talked about. Don't just fling your CV out to 20 places every day. Like, really find something that you want to do and apply for it. Yeah.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I think the portfolio career is a good test of the pivot, right? And you can look for the full-time job, but there might be contracts that come up as well as you're looking. And by having more conversations with people in the sector you want to pivot into, who are doing the role that you want to pivot into, you can learn more about what they're doing, what skills you need, where they're seeing the market going, and they might have some advice for you. And then as you build that network in that area you want to work in, something could open up and they could refer you. So I think it's still worth pursuing, and you can do it under this guise of I'm experimenting. I'm curious about this next path. We have a lot of people who act, not a lot, we have two or three who return to a full-time job in their field who are trying to make the pivot. And they said right now it's not looking super hot. They got their full-time job back, but they've now started contracting work in electrification or the built environment, and they're doing little projects on the side. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this, and 2025, 2026 is the best time because more people are open to it.
Thank you.
Joanne,
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to add in a very quick comment on, I think it was Lisa's question, who had asked, is this idea of the traditional sort of job market, is it really just US based or global? So I just wanted to add in very quickly that just before this, actually, I was in a meeting with this guy who's, sort of Harvard educated and has had all these top roles at Google and Facebook and Meta and all those things, which he said, I think, to be impressive, although for me it kind of has the opposite effect for obvious reasons. But anyway, what I wanted to share was I found it very interesting that actually he was saying that he's actually now starting his own company, and that he's noticed this global trend, and he was talking about how this idea of being employed it's really becoming quite outdated, and the landscape is changing dramatically across many different countries. So I think there definitely is that trend. And in South Africa, we have I think about, I mean, our employment rate's around about 50% or so, and it's been like that for a very long time. And the way South Africans deal with that is they start their own business. Sometimes it's a small thing, sometimes it's a big thing. And it's a very interesting psychological process, to actually, do you trust yourself enough to actually do that? And I think that's quite an interesting and worthwhile journey to go on. And I can tell you that people here, many of whom don't even have like a grade 10 education, start their own businesses and run them quite successfully. So, just as a little bit of inspiration there.
thank you for that, Joanne. And let me just also underscore what Joanne said about trusting yourself, right? And that's important regardless of the trajectory or the track that you decide to take. But do trust yourself to get where you need to go, even if that feels really scary. because you all are capable, competent humans and you're all super talented. So be open to something new being better, even if it's a scary thing.
Yeah, I'd also say worst case, we're wrong about the future of work.
Right.
And now you have an awesome story to tell in interviews and you've built a shit ton of good skills.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. So it looks like we don't have anybody else who has questions or comments. I would like to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you for sharing space with us and holding space for everyone who is navigating this really kind of difficult transitional time. Y'all are welcome to reach out to anyone here if you'd like to chat some more. We are all part of the Terra community. Find us on LinkedIn. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are.
I just wanted to add one last thing, which is that Kate and I are going to be hosting an event in January about resilience. And we'll do more of a deep dive into some of the things we talked about today about how to mentally handle the current situation. I believe it's on January 22nd. So stay tuned and we can come back and discuss more next month.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.